David, welcome to Rockonteurs. Finally.
Thank you very much.
I know, Guy's been desperate to get you on.
I know. I've finally submitted.
We should just talk about where we are, because we're in this amazing, well, it's a boat on the Thames that's fixed mooring called the Astoria, and it's also your studio, but it's got a great history, hasn't it?
It has indeed, yes. Built by a guy called Fred Carno back in 1912. And he was the musical entrepreneur who discovered Charlie Chaplin and Stan Laurel and a few other people. Anyway, he went bust and it moved out to various other people. But it's very beautiful.
That's the point, actually. What was it when you got it?
It was very much like this.
But who had it? Was it? I mean, it's never been anywhere, has it?
No. Well, it came from Tags Island 200 metres that way to here at some point. Someone must have bought this bit of garden and mooring. But I don't know who owned it right before me. I can't remember. I think it was something to do with an airline or something.
Because we helped to bring Charlie Chaplin's son together with this boat. Because it has, obviously, it's connected with Charlie Chaplin's and Fred Carno being his producer. And Fred Carno had a hotel just near here as well, Casino.
Casino, yes.
Terrible
a combination of casino and Carno. Yeah. Obviously.
See what he did there.
But we met him in Montreux.
We were in Montreux, playing with the Source for the Secrets on a Pink Floyd-related gig. And, met Charlie Chaplin's grandson. But what was funny was when we were telling
Wasn't
him...
it his youngest son?
No, it was his young son. Yeah, sorry, he's Eugene O'Neill's grandson.
Yeah,
literally having to be corrected by the turn here.
Yeah.
But he didn't seem to really know much about it.
No, but I think we went there, didn't we? And then and we said, you have to go to visit Astoria. And then a certain band called Duran Duran also visited.
And did the same thing. And he went, I don't know anything about this.
Yeah. And,
it's like a regular thing he does.
Carts, no.
We brought them together.
Yeah.
Were you here?
No.
But did you think, wow, this would be a great studio? Or were you looking for a studio? Or
No, I was banned from driving, for drink driving.
Back in the days when you did?
86, and I drove past here with Phil Taylor driving me, my long-term everything. And I saw some glass and stuff over the wall, and we stopped and had a look. And thought it looked lovely. And a couple of weeks later in the dentist's dressing room, I opened Country Life, and there it was for sale. So I came down and had a look at it, and it was very reasonable. And and I just thought, I don't know, something made me just want to buy it. But it didn't occur to me that it could be a studio at the time.
That
came along later.
Right. I can imagine. Are you mad?
Not long later.
Yeah.
And isn't there a story when you were doing one of the Floyd albums here that people pulled up alongside?
Well, there's some story about some mythological person with a microphone and trying to hear what we were doing. I don't know. Apocryphal, I think.
I've never heard that.
I think it's sort of apt in a way to record this Luck and Strange here because there is references to rivers and trying to go against the tide or stop the tide and about time and I'm looking out the window behind you and there's the Thames floating by,
Well, Luck and Strange was recorded in a dozen different studios, and this is really only the mix room, so we didn't do much of the actual recording. This was the last bit.
So it's a very nice analogy.
Yeah.
That's good.
But we did record most of the Momentary Lapse of Reason and the Division Bell albums here. I don't know if you've seen the little room at the end, Gary.
Yeah, I popped in there.
Tiny little room. We had the kit in there, organ, bass, guitars, everything.
But you ended up preferring that for the drum sound to Abbey Road.
Well, no, not to Abbey Road, to Olympic.
Oh, okay.
We went and tried out at Olympic, and we preferred the drum sound here.
How did you get your rig in there?
Well, I had tiny amps, and they were in another room. Obviously, the bass was DI'd, the keyboards were DI'd, and so we had a clean drum track thing. But there's the little bedrooms, and you can just run a cable and stick an amp in there and shut the door. It works reasonably well.
Just before lockdown, I visited you, some mutual friends, and you took me into your studio down in Brighton and played me some music. That's probably what partly I'm hearing now on this album.
As I said, we did it in a number of different places. We did most of the drum tracks with Steve Gadd we did at Mark Knopfler's place, British Grove, the week before Christmas. But we'd already done 2 drum tracks with Adam Betts and Tom Herbert at Salvation Studios in Brighton, another nice little studio. And then for all the guitars and the vocals, we went to my little studio there in Hove. But we also used Angel Studios for orchestras and choirs, and we also recorded some choirs in Ely Cathedral.
Going to Ely Cathedral, is that because there was a connection with the choir, or was it because you wanted to use Ely Cathedral because there's a connection with you? And the fact, even
Will Gardner, the arranger, fantastic chap, had been a choir boy at King's School in Ely, and he wanted to use it.
Oh, okay. Because, of course, there is the old connection, isn't there? And the cover of the Division Bell. And,
What is the
Wish I could confirm them, but no.
Well, no.
Ely Cathedral is on the cover of the Division Bell between the two funny
It's
heads.
Cambridge, isn't it? It's Cambridge.
Yeah, so I suppose
Sort-ish.
that's your home connection.
Poe went to that school, as did Alan Yentob.
That's right. There you go. In fact, there's
There you
pictures
are.
of them, isn't there? Both looking very cool.
Yeah.
At that age.
So talk about the writing process and how much you had done before you started the recording or started getting the producer in, thinking about that. I mean, how many, were the songs sort of fully demoed or written?
It's such a bitty process. I mean, some of these bits of some of these songs go way, way, way back. I mean, a bit part of the song called Sings goes back, we know, to 1997, where my original demo of what became the chorus of that has got our little baby boy Joe at the age of 2 singing "Sing Daddy Sing" on it, and you can hear that we put my original
It's great.
bit of thing recorded on a mini disc player onto that. And
But that's quite a theme with you, isn't it? That you've done that quite a lot, of where there has to be the little, like some unusual recording format on your song, because there'll be whatever you originally recorded the first.
well, it's a
First
funny
love of the
thing
idea.
that sometimes you think, and you may be wrong in that assumption, that you can't quite get the same vibe as what you had. And we did it on In Any Tongue on the last album, Rattle That Lock, where I again used a piano that I'd recorded on a mini disc player, which sounded awful and tinny, but as soon as we could put a bass underneath it, it sounded fine. It's still, that's what we used. And it's nice to capture that thing that is impossible to capture any other way. You know, we've all been in studios and we've been trying to match some feel that was in that demo, and said you just have to compromise and hear what it is, but it's not. There's always something.
It's funny though, isn't it?
Always,
Because
often.
because the thing of the demo and the demoitis, which is that thing of when you first record a song, there's always this amazing magic to it, and then when you go into the studio to make the actual record, it's just not there and you can't find it. But that doesn't really happen now, does it? Because you start your thing on the computer, and wherever you start, that's the thing that's going to be the record eventually.
Well, that's true. I mean, and that's why I love Pro Tools so much. You do make your demo on there, and elements that you have originally recorded you can always use right through to the very end, and that's brilliant.
You mentioned your baby Joe being on that album. It's so emotive and lovely. But listening to this record, so much of it feels like you and Polly have opened the door to your house and said, look, come in, this is who we are. Because there seems to be a lot of love, but obviously a lot of looking back too. But, various members of your family are on it in different ways. And there seems to be conversations going on within the album between your children and you and Polly as well. Was that something that was a concept before, or did it?
No, it wasn't a concept at all. These things just sort of accidentally happened. I mean, the whole thing of having Romany singing on it came out of our lockdown sessions, our Von Trapp sessions, which started out as doing an event for Polly's book, Theatre for Dreamers, which, because it came out the week of lockdown, completely screwed a whole plan that we had to go and do some events around the country, and we got a backdrop of the cafe in Hydra. Anyway, we started. I think Charlie suggested that we do these things live on it, up into the sky, and they worked very well. We did some talking, answered questions from people online, and Romany and I performed some songs, usually Leonard Cohen songs, and I got the feeling from that of how beautiful our voices were together.
Yeah.
But I think it's true that did lead to from what Gary's saying, is that there is, from you doing that, that led to an acceptance or a kind of awareness of the family thing. And that was a really, especially during lockdown, that's something that we all wanted, that sort of thing. And so I wonder if that maybe, yes, subconsciously made you think of opening your album up to the family a bit.
I think there was a realisation that old expectations and rule books of what I, as a former member of Pink Floyd, ought to be doing were sort of out the window, and you felt much freer to just move forward and use whatever and whoever.
You know, sometimes I've felt that there was a reluctance for you to be a solo performer, and you know, you came from a band. You know, you weren't necessarily the only frontman. But there's something about maybe you've discovered this other band, which is your family, that gives you a lot of personal strength to present yourself.
Well, I think that's true enough.
Because you have said you became the frontman of a band, which is not what you wanted to do. You became a solo performer, which is not what you wanted to do.
Well, it's never my original intention, and trying to recapture the thing of being in a band when you start out, and you can be as bolshy and obstreperous with each other as you feel like at any moment. You can just say, no, don't like that one, dump it, let's move on. That is the sort of thing that it's very hard to find in this day and age, and to recreate is altogether too much respect sent my way in these, and which is why it was so great to get Charlie Andrew on board, because he had no idea of any of that stuff and was absolutely clear, open and blunt about the way he thought we should maybe move these things forward.
There's something I want to touch on, because it's what's great with Charlie is, like you said, because as you get older, like the whole thing of being in a band is being in a gang, and obviously you don't want that, and a lot of that is because you have families.
Different
that's
gang,
your gang, but then you don't necessarily want to go and find people who are going to challenge you in the same way as your band did when you were young. But this is where the interesting thing with Charlie, who is brilliant, has been brilliant, who I adore working with. But because what's interesting is he was challenging a lot of your notions and ideas of what you put on a record. But actually, a lot of it really isn't that far from stuff that Pink Floyd did. So that's quite interesting. So he was actually drawing you. He wasn't taking you totally away from anything you've known. So
I don't know what to say to that.
Yeah. No, but I was just thinking, there's a couple of things, like sonically, there's I don't want to get too technical, things to do, like a lot of the dissonance stuff with the orchestra, and the thing of foreshadowing events, having musical stuff happen that's telling you what's going to happen. That's all stuff that Pink Floyd has done.
I guess that's coming from the co-producer as well, right?
Yes. No, but it's not something that happens so much on your album. So
How did you come by Charlie, though? Because I know he did Alt J. What made you think of going younger, as it were? Not going for the Rick Rubin sort of obvious.
Well,
that was your idea, wasn't it? It was a very good idea.
That's an obvious idea. That's
my
right.
point.
Well, we had thought about Rick Rubin and a number of other people who've been around for quite a while that I either know or know of. But I got to the point of thinking I didn't want to work with any of those people. And my lovely wife Polly came up with the notion of looking at who was younger and hot in the production world, and looked online and saw that Charlie Andrew had won the Mercury Prize first time out with Alt J, and Polly was saying to me, listen to Alt J, listen to Marika Hackman, Sivu, and there was a fresh thing in those records that really appealed to me and to Polly. We were very keen, and I think I sent him a message via Instagram or something. I can't quite remember. Anyway, he came down and listened to the early formation of the demos, which some of them weren't that early, but they were certainly unfinished. And he asked some pertinent questions, and then said, he'd love to
does it have to have all those guitar solos?
That. And why do they all have to fade out?
That was quite a good one. But what is quite funny, though, is for all that, there's still quite a lot of guitar solos.
I think maybe we changed him as much as he's changed us.
Yeah. Because that's one thing I like, because what was interesting was that for me working with him is that all the time I've ever worked with you, we live in a world where this was the first, where everything's always been about getting the best, poshest, most hi-fi, well-recorded version of everything.
Yeah.
And this wasn't that.
No.
And it was...
They're just trying to capture something different.
Vibe.
Yeah. Well, I think there's an age thing. I don't know if this is going too much off tangent, but all of us come from eras where the manipulation, the recording and the presentation of music was getting better all the time. Sound was always getting better, and you were trying to make things better. And I think that kind of peaked in the 90s, where things kind of got as good as they could.
Yeah.
And so that's when people started trashing everything. They started putting everything through filters and shooting it up. And I think everyone who's come since then, that's why like Charlie and Matt, they love to throw loads of distortion on everything. Don't they?
Yeah. I don't... There's a sort of... less of a sort of crystal clear purity, and I'm very keen on that. But they were very, very assiduous about how they did things. Matt Glasby, great engineer. I mean, he put arrays of mics in all sorts of places. When the sound wasn't quite what he wanted, to bring these ones up, take these ones down. The cohesiveness of the whole album, to me, I find quite extraordinary, that they have put all those sounds together, and every track ties in a certain way, and it's a different sound. I don't think it's any less brilliant or any less pure. I mean, they do, as you said, like to add some distorted elements to things and some frankly out of tune elements, especially.
In the choir, I saw
there are
something
some
on the EPK.
things which were just
Crazy.
which are, one of those moments you're sitting there and going, what the hell? And the next day you're going, yeah.
But I think that's actually what's been quite brave about you. And I mean, I saw it happening slightly, when you, I will use that word, you culled musicians on your last tour and from the previous one, and changed everyone up, apart from someone sitting here.
Yeah.
And kind of done it again now, haven't you? And but so there's an urgency about you in trying to still be inspired by what younger people have.
Yeah, I mean, working on this album, meeting, these people who are mostly brought to me by Charlie Andrew, they just seemed so good and so into it, so keen to get everything absolutely right. And a number of these guys are now with me coming on this tour, and I couldn't be happier.
Is this your new posse, though? You're going to stick to it for a bit?
I think so, yes. I'm absolutely convinced that they're the ones for the time being, for the future. I'm
really interested in Polly writing your work, what you sing. I mean, everything is first person singular. And when you listen to it, it feels like it's your thoughts entirely. Yeah. And it's about you. It's about where you are in your life, mortality, and it's about looking at all of those things that we all, are bound to look at now, and especially looking back. And does some of these things take you by surprise when you read what her version of you is?
Yes, of course. I'm constantly amazed at how she gets inside my head, and it must be murder to write for an old man when you're a woman. You have your whole other complete view of life and the world. But I don't know how she does it, frankly, but she does, and it's brilliant. And how could I do without that?
And does it work? Does she come back with some lyrics and say, how does this scansion work for you? And then you work together?
Well, obviously the scansion thing is a different matter, but what she's getting at in the lyrics, in the meanings of the lyrics, I don't interfere with, I don't think. But yes, I mean, I say things like that. It's going to be very hard to sing, and she changes it.
Yeah. Because I think there's, and also there's familiarity in what she writes for you. You know, when she talks about the photographs on the kitchen shelves or whatever it might be. This is your real world, isn't it? You understand. You're not trying to create any other fantasy about your life. That honesty, I think, is really exciting. But also, you know, sometimes quite, I would say dark even. You know, who's going to hold each other's hand last is one of the lines.
That's a very striking line.
Yeah.
That immediately makes you think, doesn't it?
I love the one of the woman who smiles when you embrace her.
Yeah.
She's writing for herself.
No, but that's quite good, because actually, if she's embracing you, you don't know if she's smiling or not.
No.
I speak to my friends who love your work and love Pink Floyd, and it's all about the sound, and it's about the voice, and it's about the guitar. Actually, I think more than ever, this album is about the lyrics.
I agree. And Charlie Andrew would take the lyrics to each player and say, here are the lyrics. Look at this. Have a think about this. And let's try and tie in all our performances to the lyrics just as much as to the music, which was shocked Polly.
Did that affect the way you played, Guy?
Oh, totally. No, but I've always been. I've never understood why musicians aren't totally about that anyway.
Yeah.
On anything, even a disco track. It's just like it's surely what you play has to relate to what is being sung.
It's mentioned the Black Cat, which opens the album. That I saw the Black Cat stickers on the back of Polly's computer earlier.
Yeah.
What is it? Where did it come about?
Well, he hasn't got the black Strat anymore, has he?
Well, I know, but who is the cat?
The cat is our cat, and who, when it was very young, it was really a kitten. Polly took a photograph of it, and Gabriel helped to create the stickers, and we stuck one on a newer black Strat, the one that is my main black Strat, and deemed that it should be called the Black Cat Strat, which is now is.
That's it.
And I love the melody on that opening thing, and it's your other voice, isn't it? You know, the guitar to start.
I was wondering about that with some of your guitar solos. Do you feel that the lyric is like the song isn't finished until you've said that, and it's almost like that's a vocal addition?
God, I've no idea.
Yeah.
No idea. I mean, they just sort of by themselves dictate where they want to go, and I just have a little play and refine it a bit later maybe, but I haven't considered the importance of one to the other, or why one should do this guitar thing here and not there. And sorry, I'm
that's
not
fine.
describing this very well at all.
But it's great. No, because you're lost in your artistry, David, the enigma of your muse. But the great point, obviously, it's very dear to my heart to bring up in this is the fact that you've managed to bring back, like, sort of supernaturally, the musical conversation between you and Rick on this album, which is, obviously talking about moving on and sort of not being in a band or anything like that. And that's clearly one thing that's been a hole for years.
On the track, Luck and Strange as well.
On track like a strange. No, because even on the last album, there's The Boat Lies Waiting.
Yeah.
But you said with this, when you managed to put Rick's keyboards together, the fact that then you're playing fresh guitar to that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that is, funnily enough, that track, which was done in early 2007, and Rick had been on the tour that we'd just completed before then. At his request, he said, "Can I come on the tour?"
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I was today years old when I learnt that.
Anyway, we played that track, and the original jam, which is about 15 minutes long, is an extra on the album, and you can hear most of the guitar is on that.
Yeah, it's the same,
on that
yeah.
first original take. Most of the nearly all of the keyboards are, but obviously I had to write bridges and choruses to fit into the thing using the original drums. But Rick is Rick all over it. Just what he did, and that the take is the only take. We didn't, I started, people joined in, and that is the record. I mean, we hadn't rehearsed it. We hadn't.
And how much has that original Barn Jam survived to get onto this album?
All of it. Well, not all of the Barn Jam, because that was 15
No,
minutes
when I mean
long,
all of the
everything-
musicians.
All of the track that is
Kemp.
on the record is basically the four of us playing, except in the bridges and choruses where,
So does
there's
Steve
a
Gadd
bit of
come in
ex-
for that?
No,
No,
the drums. The drums are
it's
original.
just, yes, no, it's just the keys.
I just erased stuff off or copied the drums and re-edited them in and wrote
Which
bits
is annoying
and
because
added.
I've actually been telling people the story that David actually managed to find all the chords somewhere else played by Rick, and you transpose them.
And I
Let's go with that.
love the track, and because it again it does this thing like you do later on in Sings, where you're looking back and pulling some stuff from the past and making it part of your present, and there's Rick still inspiring you. But I really like the lyrics on that, the lyrical idea that you were, well, are you the golden generation? You certainly were the generation that, penicillin comes around and no wars come about, and suddenly there's this incredible
Well, if you look at
uphill
it, there were a
welfare
few
state.
wars, there was the Bay of Pigs and
That is Vietnam,
Cuban Missile Crisis. But a lot of people think that that baby boomer era was a bit of a golden age. And
Well, it was. You were the luckiest generation. Yeah.
and the world at the moment is looking a bit of a darker place. But what's the norm, I
Yeah,
think,
exactly.
is what Polly's getting at in that one. Was that the norm, or is what is happening at the moment the norm?
Oh, you're right.
Or is it just cyclical?
Yeah.
But obviously there was what we're left with is the legacy of these great bands that appeared in the 60s and 70s is extraordinary, and is, I think what you're saying, or Polly's saying as well, is it possible to achieve again? I mean, where are younger people much more cynical now? And that's what I meant when I said it felt like a conversation between you and your children as well.
Yeah. Well, yeah, it's a broader conversation than bands, obviously. But I don't know the answer.
I'd say one last.
It
sorry.
could obviously it could happen again, but that's
Because it just feels like there's a lot more. It's much harder, obviously. And if it's going to happen anywhere, it's going to happen in other art forms, maybe. But
Well, I think it's more the general world thing, which is true. They had everything and pulled the ladder up behind them and left their kids with the world on fire. That's
well, I mean, there's only 12 notes. How can they keep being reinvented?
It's very true. One last musical point on that, though, is what's interesting is that those barn jams were back in 2007. And so there's no reason why you couldn't have gone and found that. And something akin to Luck and Strange could have been on Rattle That Lock. But it's weird, but it clearly should be on this. This is clearly
I was
the
wondering
album
why I
for
hadn't
that.
got used before. Yeah.
Well, that's right. There's sort of about 30 other barn jam
And you're
things.
saving it for yourself because you liked it.
And things choose their moment to be a part of something, and it's very hard to work out quite why that happens. I've got other, bits of music, semi-written tunes that go back up to 30 years. But there
I
are
think you've
still
got-
some that may come out
Yeah,
one day.
yeah,
I
yeah.
don't know.
I'm pretty sure there's one piece of music that I've been through with you ever since you started sort of your solo career, and it's come out every single time.
And then it goes away.
And it's never.
Yeah. There
And I look forward to playing it again.
Yeah. Well, we no doubt will.
So let's talk about Steve Gadd, because having Steve Gadd on the record, as soon as I heard that was happening, he went off to do the recordings, Guy, and he came back, and you said how much you absolutely love.
I said his bass drum makes me want to cry, which it does. It sort of wounds you. But also, this also comes back to Charlie, was that because Steve Gadd obviously lives in that same sort of world as you, where he's just surrounded by reverence. You know, I've played with every drummer in the world, but it's still like, it's Steve Gadd, and again, and with Charlie, he wasn't getting that. They were trashing his sound. They were like throwing him into Space Echoes, and he loved it. He was absolutely loving it.
He's smiling
So it
all
was
over
that
the
same
EPK.
thing. It was that inspirational, that freshness was kind of really working with him.
How did it happen?
He's not a baby, you know. He's quite a
Yeah.
You know, he's of a considerable age, and Charlie just.
Oh, Charlie
beat
is a
him up.
drummer. Charlie is a drummer.
Really?
Yeah.
Charlie is the drummer. He was looking forward to working with Steve Gadd as much as anyone.
Yeah.
But he pushed him and pushed him and pushed him. I mean, they turned up at 10 in the morning. They were still there by 9 at night, and he just kept saying, "One more take. Try this. Do a tambourine. Do this." And Steve would just say, "Okay, okay." Never a hint of impatience or irritation.
How did you make the connection with Steve?
Just, I think, emailed his website, I think.
Wow.
Polly said to me, you know, "Who do you want to play with?" And I said, "Well, I love Steve Gadd, but I'm frightened."
I love it when you say that, because he's. I've got to say, he's such
Polly
a
said,
great
"Just
fit.
man up and call him now."
Quite right. No, but also because I will
And
say,
he said yes and headed over.
yeah, that of all those kind of elite drummers, I would say he's the closest to Nick.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in feel.
His light touch.
That light touch and the sort of rolling fills and that kind of swung everything.
Well, he has that swing.
That's why you know, one of the reasons I think he's such a great fit.
Okay.
Is that how he speaks?
I know he was great. He was down the 606 Club every night. It was like proper old music.
What's extraordinary about him is it's very light touch all the time. He's hardly touching these things, and when you hear them back in the control room, they sound like someone's, you know, like Jed Lynch is whacking the shit out of them or something. But it's how he achieves that, you know, that sound just by the feel, the touch. It just still,
David, that's
still
exactly
baffles me.
But that's exactly what people say about you. I mean, it's quite interesting. You know, it applies to any instrument.
Thank you.
But you
Guy.
recorded
So sweet.
together in a little group to do that as well, because I was interested in that, because, you know, nowadays, bring in Steve Gadd, the track's already made, and then we'll just straighten him up on the record, you know.
No, we did those tracks with everyone in the room playing, but with good separation. Not everything got used,
Yeah.
but yeah.
But there was a sense of a band
Yeah,
playing.
Yeah.
it was really exciting.
On a Piper's Call, am I just reading always too much into this family thing? Because it does also seem like there's an element of saying, what I did, there is a side to fame and celebrity that is that, you know, it can be regretted as well, and is dangerous.
Well, yes, it's
I mean, do you feel that?
yes, obviously, you know, it's a dangerous world, the world of rock and roll, and one is led astray, and one lets oneself be led astray, and that's, I guess, what the song is about.
But I you know, I just felt that, you know, you've got Romy singing, you know, a typical kind of voice of a young teenager family person who's singing that to you, and you're singing that back to her.
Well, you know, the choices of backing singing, and, you know, quite a lot of some of the backing singing anyway had been done prior to Charlie Andrew coming on board, and it started in the pandemic when we couldn't have anyone in the studio, and we were stuck with the people who were there, which was Romany and Gabe, who sings on some of them as well. And it seemed to work so well. Why change it?
Yeah. Do you think do you ever feel there's a lot of pressure on your guitar solos, or that you do? That there's such a, how many people are out there playing Comfortably Numb? They're everywhere, and that when you write a new one or come up with that new moment, is that hard for you? Are there people in the room that you need to clear out and find your zone?
Don't think so. No, I think I just plug in and go and hope for the best.
But you do it you would do it with an engineer sitting here and just you're trying to find melody, really.
Yes, I'm hunting for melodies, but I'm hoping they will naturally flow out of me. Some of them were done just by me, without an engineer or anything, just in my barn room back at the farm. And some of them were done in Brighton with Charlie Andrew breathing down my neck, and I think we changed him as much as he changed us in terms of some of these things. Yeah. Loving the guitar solo thing by the end, so let's do another one.
But it's interesting with you, because I was thinking that while you were talking. Made me think, I don't know if I've ever been around where you've actually sort of put a solo down. It does seem to be something you do when...
I can't pin down
we've
the
all gone
moments.
home.
I mean, on Between 2 Points, I can remember just plugging a guitar in and recording and just playing along and feeling I was more in that moment than usually happens, and it almost felt transcendent, that like I was on drugs or something, but I wasn't. But it, I still love what that one does.
Yeah.
But how these things are done, I've no idea.
I really like A Single Spark. I think the melody of that you put up in that solo at the end, I think is...
Yeah.
And then the sound as well. It's so strong. And didn't Single Spark come out of sitting next to someone on a plane? Or?
Well, the phrase of a single spark between two eternities was Nabokov from his thing. What's it called? Speak Memory. That I guess I must have talked about at various times, and Polly picked up on, I guess.
Then what was the sitting next to someone on a plane?
Well, I saw it as I was sitting on an airplane in the 70s, and I was sitting in my seat and someone was sitting next to me reading, and that phrase just sort of jumped off the page at me, and I've always remembered it. I don't even remember writing it down.
Wow.
I thought it was written by someone else, though, for quite a long time.
But and also on Dark and Velvet Nights, that was something that was left on your desk, wasn't it, lyrically?
Again, yes. I had just put down a track that I was really enjoying, and I wanted to sing something, and Polly had given me, I think for my birthday, a poem. But a lot of the lines were just sort of perfect for the scansion. So I sang them and played it to Polly. She liked it. We adjusted it, did more, and it became what it is. I mean, I don't know how difficult it was.
I'd say, I know when you say you were enjoying the track, like, as a little personal note, it's the first time in years you actually played me that down the phone when you were doing it.
Wow.
That never happens, so...
I must have liked it then.
You must have been aware of this thing on your desk somehow subconsciously to write the same scansion, as it were. It worked.
Well, no, it it was just sitting there. It was on top of a pile of other pieces of paper. God knows what's on them, but and it just. I mean, I literally picked a piece of paper up, plugged the mic in, and sang it, and it just had so much potential to it immediately.
How much are you aware of like changes in your voice as you get older? Is that something you embrace? Is it something that can frustrate you, or you feel like I'm still that same guy?
I think I'm still that same guy. I don't think my voice has changed that much.
It still has definitely the same tonality.
I mean, in the very, very early years, I think I tried to make it a little thinner, and I didn't want to be a big, powerful voice for a lot of the things we did. But I mean, as time goes on, I grow into it even more. I think the singing on this is as good as anything I've ever done.
No, it's fantastic. It's one thing I would say is a change. It's not necessarily, is that you've allowed a bit of vibrato to creep in every here and there, which is not something you used to do.
And was Charlie on your case as well when you were singing? Were there?
Well, we did the vocals until we had them right, yeah, which meant in some cases a lot of takes, but in some cases they're older vocals from one or two of them that I did myself. But yes, I really think that the sound of it and the way I'm singing is good.
It's you.
It's up there. It's me, yeah. Sure.
Well, what is it? Because I know Guy.
It's a constant learning process.
Guy said to me, because we were talking about you preparing to go and sing live, and you were saying to him that the thing you think about more than the guitar is the voice. That's something that.
Well, I mean, actually, 10 years ago, when we did the last album, Rattle That Lock, I was having a lot of difficulty with my voice. Every night with one of those funny steam machines and vocal zone pills and God knows what. I was nursing it all the way through the tour, and on some of the tracks, the recorded tracks, I can hear the difficulty. But now it's fine. I did all the singing on the album down in Brighton every day, hours of it, and I never had a sore throat, never couldn't do a day. And I think it's because I'm a lot fitter.
Right.
Do you
I
have
do a lot more
warm-up
walking.
regime? Yeah.
You have a warm-up regime?
Well, yeah, I've never heard you me, I war.
No.
I mean, he does.
Louise Marshall always...
Mostly me, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Louise Marshall always tries to get me to join in the
Yeah.
in the singing warm-up things, which I've done once or twice, but I'm not assiduous about it.
On Scattered, though, you do start with the heartbeat.
With the what?
With the heartbeat.
There's a heartbeat on there.
Is that one we should recognise?
Not that I'm aware of.
Oh, right, okay. It just
What
seems
do you mean?
Well, I have no idea. It seemed like potentially something that we might, know from your past.
It's just a sound.
And that is this where we are. This one which I would say we are back in the proper David big set piece solo. And that's the kind of.
Well, they're not
set
long.
closer.
There's
No, it's not. And amazing.
3 one-sequence
and
solos.
Yeah, but it's got the lovely step up. It's got the 2 steps up.
Yeah.
And yes, and this fantastic thing of actually going back to a fantastically poignant lyric at the end of it to close it, rather than the play out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
It's an amazing for a song like that of yours to actually be able to say how long it's going to be.
Yeah, and also that Leslie piano sound at the beginning. So it was, familiar to your. Yes, familiar to your past.
Sound, yes.
Yeah, but it's no. I think it has all the elements that. And what about the orchestration on it? Who was the guy? Where did you find him? Why did you choose?
Well, he came from Charlie Andrew. The orchestrations on that and everything else are by Will Gardner, who was brought in by Charlie Andrew, along with several of the other people on the album.
How come he survived?
How come he survived?
Yeah.
He's jolly.
He's the only one, though, isn't he?
Well, yeah. I mean, there's different reasons and different things why things change. Sometimes you just feel like you need a broom and you just want to start again. And the fact is that being here in England, working with Charlie Andrew and the people that he was bringing on board to be on the record, it just made it obvious that these people would be great to be part of a band, and a change is good.
Yeah, well, you were auditioned on this boat, weren't you?
I was right. I think it was right. I was sitting right where you are and David was standing just there behind that rack when I got the gig. Yeah, when he gave me the gig, and when I think you said, well, you'll do. I suppose you better go and speak to my manager.
Is that what I said? I've no idea what I said.
Yeah, and then it was really awkward. Like, as
How old were you?
so much of our time together has been,
Yeah.
and I was 25, and I was and I didn't know what to do. I was speechless, and so you said, I suppose I better play you something, and you played me Learning to Fly.
Did I not get you to have a single?
That was the second
Run Like
time.
Hell?
That was the second time I'd sung it. Yeah, I'd turned up the first time, and it was just you here and another bass player, in fact, which was again fantastically awkward.
Yeah.
And I sang Run Like Hell, and then you asked me to come back because you couldn't believe I'd done it so well. And Nick was there the second time.
What a treat.
Yes. And you went, I think this is the guy, and Nick went, oh, okay.
But you're looking forward to doing this live?
Yes. Looking forward to
That's gonna be
doing
fantastic.
a few shows. Yeah.
Yeah.
Who wouldn't be?
Yeah, exactly. You're going to be in America
It's
during the
scary.
election.
Yeah, we are playing Madison Square Garden on election night, I believe.
And the night after.
Yeah.
That's
well,
awful,
we'll
isn't
see how that goes.
So
It's looking slightly more optimistic.
It's a good lot more optimistic.
So you'll be back in rehearsals again,
I'm
in the
about
Pink
to, yeah. I'm
Floyd
already
universe.
woodshedding, yeah. After we've been out for months, because this is a little point, is because, Gary, what you two have in common is that you're both sort of your own men as guitarists, not session dogs, but you've had to be inside his head for the last few years, learning his stuff.
Yeah,
How
a little bit.
have you found that?
Well, I think you are the player, the musician that you inherited at any given time. You know, when I was a kid, it was this man here, and Pete and Mick Ronson, and that kind of amalgam becomes you. In the same way that I can still hear a bit of Hank Marvin in what you choose
Absolutely.
to do. You know, so.
Actually, that's a good point. Though. I don't think I've ever asked you that. Is there an absolute eureka moment for you as a kid? For the first record, Heartbreak Hotel or whatever?
Well, Heartbreak Hotel was the first pop music record that really blew me away.
Actually, it was Heartbreak Hotel.
It
Okay.
came. I still listen to it, and the production of it is just staggeringly, wonderfully unique. And it came just after Rock Around the Clock, I think. But I was already into some folk music and all sorts of other things. I've always been a bit of a, jack of all trades.
Was there a moment in your guitar playing that you can look back on and think, that's where I found my voice?
No, I can't say that there was. But, playing tunes on a guitar is what it was. And some of that does come from Hank Marvin. And the rest is the usual list of suspects.
Yeah.
And
Which I've taken a bit from everyone, as we all do. I've always, at the early days, I copied a lot. I tried to do specific solos by all sorts of people. And then you find your own voice. It becomes your thing rather than you discard. But I think copying is a very good teacher.
Thanks for coming on, David. Thanks
My
for doing
pleasure.
this, and good luck with the album and the
Thank you.
tour, and putting up with him for the next few months.
Yeah.